There was a time when T.I. was the king of the South, respected, feared, and admired across the rap game. But now that crown seems to have slipped. The energy's different. The respect's gone. And one man, 50 Cent, isn't holding back on why. In a shocking revelation, 50 has decided to air out the truth behind T.I.'s fall from grace, the industry politics, the bad blood, and the moves that turned peers into critics. From legal troubles to questionable interviews and awkward confrontations, it seems the same man who once dominated Atlanta might have become his own worst enemy. But this isn't just another rap beef. It's a deep look into how fame fades and respect disappears when ego and authenticity collide. So, what really happened between 50 Cent and T.I.? And why does the industry treat T.I. like he's fallen off for good? Stay tuned, because 50 Cent just lit the fuse on one of hip-hop's most brutal reality checks. There was a time when T.I. didn't just believe he was the king of the South. He made everyone else believe it too. Back in the early 2000s, Atlanta was exploding. The city's sound was raw, hungry, and ready to take over. In the middle of it stood Clifford Joseph Harris Jr., better known as T.I. He wasn't chasing validation from New York or L.A. He was building his own empire, brick by brick, beat by beat. When T.I. dropped trap music, everything changed. The way he rapped about hustling, family, and redemption gave Southern rap a new identity. Rubber Band Man became an anthem, and suddenly this kid from Bankhead had the world repeating his slang and studying his swagger. To the industry, he was both street and smart, the perfect balance of charisma and credibility. By the time King hit shelves in 2006, T.I. was unstoppable. A Grammy winner, chart topper, and Hollywood actor, he stood next to icons like Jay-Z, Kanye, and Lil Wayne, proving the South wasn't just relevant, it was dominant. He had the money, the music, the movement, but fame has two faces. And as fast as it rises, it starts to test your foundation. That's where the story begins to twist. Around the same time, another giant was moving in a different lane, 50 Cent. Where T.I. represented Southern finesse, 50 was pure New York aggression. Every move he made screamed dominance. After Get Rich or Die Tryin', nobody questioned his power. He wasn't just a rapper. He was a strategist, a mogul, and the last person you wanted as an enemy. The first spark between them wasn't open hostility. It was silent comparison. Fans constantly debated, who really runs it? The king of the South or the ruthless boss from Queens? 50 Cent respected T.I.'s hustle, but he also watched patterns. To 50, the rap game isn't only about hits. It's about reputation, consistency, and how you carry yourself when the cameras stop rolling. And slowly, 50 began to notice something. T.I. was slipping into the same Hollywood energy that kills street credibility. When T.I. caught those federal gun charges in 2007, the respect didn't vanish immediately, but the whispers began. Everyone in hip-hop knows that when you're facing that much time and come home that fast, people start asking questions. T.I. tried to pivot his image, launching a reality show, talking about positivity and second chances, a move that helped with mainstream audiences but made the streets uneasy. Meanwhile, 50 Cent's empire only grew. He turned every feud into fuel, Ja Rule, Fat Joe, Rick Ross, and then each time he came out on top. He wasn't about being liked, he was about being respected. So when he looked at T.I.'s direction, what he saw was a man losing control of the narrative. Then came the moment that really put their dynamic on the map. The Versus era, T.I., filled with confidence, called out 50 Cent for a hit-for-hit battle. On the surface, it seemed fun. Two legends trading classics. But to 50, that challenge wasn't just competition. It was disrespect. He saw it as T.I. reaching above his weight class, trying to prove relevance through controversy. Didn't respond with anger. He responded with silence. That's his signature move. He lets time do the talking. Instead of giving T.I. the spotlight, 50 focused on expanding his empire, producing Power, BMF, and a lineup of shows that made him one of the most powerful figures in entertainment. And while 50 was building his television dynasty, T.I. was slipping into headlines for all the wrong reasons. Public controversies, awkward podcast clips, social media rants, and interviews that felt out of touch. It all piled up. The man who once stood for the South's pride now looked like he was chasing the respect he used to own naturally. Industry insiders began noticing it too. Collaborations slowed down. Younger rappers weren't calling him OG with the same energy. Even longtime fans started to admit that T.I.'s focus seemed scattered. Too many business ventures. Not enough music that hit like the old days. That's when 50 Cent started talking. He didn't launch a diss track. He didn't need to. 50 understands that a few well-placed words can sting harder than an entire album. During interviews, social media posts, and podcast moments, he started throwing subtle jabs, little reminders that the respect T.I. once had wasn't there anymore. In one clip, 50 smirked and said, "Some dudes just talk too much. You lose your mystery. You lose your power." Fans knew exactly who he was talking about. That single line became the spark that reignited conversations about T.I.'s place in the game. People began asking, what happened to the King of the South? The truth? Fame had become heavier than the crown. T.I. was juggling activism, acting, and social commentary. But in hip-hop, people don't remember speeches. They remember moments. And while 50 was giving audiences new moments every year, new shows, new business wins, T.I. was getting trapped in online debates that chipped away at his legacy. Behind the scenes, many in the industry started agreeing with 50's unspoken point. T.I. wasn't feared, envied, or even admired the same way anymore. He was tolerated. And in hip-hop, that's worse than being hated. Dissent saw it all unfold like a chess game. He'd been there himself, on top, facing scrutiny, learning who's real when the cameras go dark. But unlike most, 50 turned those moments into power. T.I., in contrast, tried to defend his image instead of letting the work speak. By the time the world realized it, the gap between them wasn't just musical, it was psychological. Cent represented control. T.I. represented confusion. And the more 50 observed, the more convinced he became that T.I. had lost the one thing every artist needs to survive: respect. That's where the stage was set. 50 hadn't even fired the full shot yet, but everyone knew it was coming. The memes, the interviews, the shade, they were all warning signs of a public takedown brewing beneath the surface. Because in hip-hop, respect isn't given. It's earned. And once it's gone, no award, no show, and no apology can buy it back. When 50 Cent speaks, hip-hop listens. Not because he's loud, but because he's right more often than he's wrong. He's built his reputation on calling out the fakes, the snakes, and the ones pretending to be something they're not. So when he started hinting that T.I. had lost his touch, the culture knew something real was coming. It didn't happen in one big moment. It started with fragments, a few lines, a few jokes, a few posts that hit harder than any diss record could. Cent dropped one of those classic bombs on social media, saying, "Some people used to run the game, now they just run their mouths." That one sentence sent shockwaves through the rap community. Everyone instantly started decoding it, and all signs pointed toward T.I. The blogs lit up. Comment sections exploded. Fans started revisiting T.I. old moments, his interviews, his feuds, his legal issues, and realized something 50 had been saying all along: the respect wasn't the same anymore. Back in the day, T.I. was untouchable. He'd go toe-to-toe with anyone, beef with Lil Flip, trade bars with Ludacris, and come out on top. But now when he talked, people rolled their eyes instead of listening. The Verzuz challenge to 50 Cent was a turning point. Instead of excitement, it came off as desperation. T.I. wasn't reading the room, and 50 knew that. He didn't even respond directly. Instead, he used silence as a weapon. Every time T.I. mentioned his name, 50 would post something totally unrelated, promoting Power or BMF, as if to say, "You're not on my level anymore." That's the cruel thing about hip-hop. Once the people stop taking you seriously, everything you say feels like noise. And soon, even Atlanta began to notice the shift. T.I.'s status in his own city started to blur. Newer artists, from Young Thug to 21 Savage, respected him as a pioneer, but didn't necessarily look up to him the way they did before. It wasn't hate, it was distance. The new generation moved differently, and T.I. wasn't adapting fast enough. Meanwhile, 50 Cent was thriving off exactly what T.I. had lost: relevance. While T.I. was debating morality on podcasts and clapping back at fans online, 50 was quietly becoming one of the most influential producers in television. He turned his real-life lessons into art, Power, BMF, Raising Kanan, all based on authenticity and control. And that's what stung most. 50 had turned his street image into a business empire, while T.I. seemed to be fighting to protect his image instead of evolving it. So when 50 finally decided to go all in, he didn't hold back. During one of his appearances, 50 Cent addressed the situation with his signature smirk. There's levels to this. Some people had their time. But once the respect's gone, it's gone. You can't talk your way back into it. That line hit hard. It wasn't even a direct diss, it was a eulogy. Industry insiders began to speak privately about it too. Rumors started swirling that many in the business didn't want to associate with T.I. anymore, not because of hate, but because of uncertainty. He wasn't the hitmaker or the voice of the streets he used to be. His energy had changed, and that's when 50 dropped what fans now call the final shot. In a radio interview, when asked about T.I.'s comments about being on 50 Cent's level, 50 laughed and said, "On my level? Come on, man. I'm still writing checks." He's still writing captions. The studio erupted in laughter. The internet lost its mind. That one-liner went viral instantly. It summed up the entire story. 50 Cent was still winning, still moving, while T.I. had become more of a personality than a powerhouse. After that, things got even uglier online. Fans started digging into T.I.'s past, the court cases, the informant rumors, the public controversies with his family, and those viral podcast clips that made him seem more out of touch than legendary. And while T.I. tried to respond with class, posting quotes about kings don't argue with peasants, the damage was already done. Because the one thing 50 Cent understands better than anyone else is timing. He knows when the culture's ready to listen and when it's ready to laugh. By the time T.I. responded, the moment had passed. The internet had already chosen sides, and it wasn't his. But what makes 50's comments hit even harder is that they came from someone who's been through it himself. 50 Cent knows how fast respect can disappear. He's seen friends turn enemies, fans turn critics, and fame turn to silence. The difference? 50 Cent never changed his formula. He stayed true to who he was, even when people doubted him. He didn't chase trends. He created them. T.I., on the other hand, tried to reinvent himself too many times. Gangster, activist, family man, comedian. And in that process, he lost the one thing the streets value most: authenticity. In hip-hop, you can evolve, but you can't fake evolution. People can tell when the hunger's gone, and 50 Cent saw it in T.I. years before anyone said it out loud. So when he exposed why nobody respects T.I. anymore, it wasn't out of hate. It was out of cold observation. He wasn't just dissing T.I., he was holding up a mirror. Then came the reaction. Podcasters started doing breakdowns of 50's comments. Clips went viral with captions like 50 Cent ends T.I. without saying his name. Even other rappers quietly started agreeing online, liking posts, dropping laughing emojis, and letting the world know that the industry had quietly shifted its view. Meanwhile, T.I. tried to hold his ground. He posted quotes about legacy and respect, reminding fans that his catalog speaks for itself. And he's not wrong, T.I. has classics. Nobody can erase his impact. But here's the brutal truth. In today's culture, people care more about the moment than the memory. And 50 Cent owned the moment completely. By the end of that month, headlines everywhere were echoing the same sentiment. 50 Cent had called it right. T.I. wasn't feared, wasn't trending, and wasn't being mentioned in the same breath as the heavyweights anymore. Narrator. This wasn't just beef, it was a wake-up call. 50 Cent didn't destroy T.I.'s reputation. T.I. did it himself. 50 just said what everyone else was thinking. Because in the rap game, respect isn't about what you did. It's about what you're doing now. And by the time T.I. realized that the industry had already moved on. But the story doesn't end there. Because T.I. wasn't ready to let 50 Cent have the last word. He fired back. And what came next turned this quiet tension into a full-on war of words. The internet had declared it over. 50 Cent had fired his shots, the culture laughed, and T.I.'s silence felt like defeat. But if there's one thing T.I. has never been known for, it's backing down. Within days, the King of the South broke his silence. Not in an interview, not in a freestyle, but on Instagram Live, where millions could watch unfiltered. T.I. leaned into the camera, his tone calm but sharp. Look, man, I don't play social media games. I ain't gotta prove nothing to nobody. My legacy solidified. 50 doing his shows, that's cool. But don't forget, before Power, before BMF, I had the streets on lock. I was that dude. The chat went wild. Fans flooded the comments, some cheering him on, others calling him out. But as the live went on, something shifted. Instead of fire, T.I.'s words felt defensive. It didn't sound like a man setting the record straight. It sounded like someone trying to remind the world who he used to be. And that's where 50 Cent had already won. See? 50 never needed to respond. He understood something that most rappers never figure out. Silence is a weapon. The less he said, the louder the narrative got. But of course, 50 being 50, he couldn't resist twisting the knife just a little bit. The next morning, he posted a photo of himself sipping champagne with the caption, "You can't be the king when the castle's in foreclosure." It didn't take a genius to figure out who he was talking about. The comment section exploded again. 50 petty. He's talking about T.I. This man never misses. And T.I. couldn't help himself. He fired back with a post of his own. A king doesn't respond to clowns. Remember that. But the problem? That line was a response. The media fed off the tension like wildfire. Podcasts, blogs, and YouTube channels started dropping daily updates. 50 versus T.I. Who's winning? Clips from old interviews resurfaced, moments where T.I. had once been the confident, untouchable Southern general. Now the same clips were being used as memes. Expeditiously jokes started trending again. Fans mocked his old interviews where he used big words and complex phrases, turning what used to be his charm into comedy material. It wasn't just disrespect. It was cultural rejection, and this is what hurt most. The same people who once praised T.I. for being articulate and sharp were now laughing at him. Meanwhile, 50 Cent stayed composed, not loud, not emotional. Every few days, he'd post a new clip from BMF or Power, subtly showing his dominance in business and media. It wasn't about rap anymore. It was about power, influence, and longevity. He had evolved. T.I. hadn't. Then came the moment that made everything spiral. During a podcast appearance, a host asked T.I. directly, "Do you think 50 Cent disrespected you intentionally?" T.I. leaned back, took a deep breath, and said, "Man, I think 50 just talks too much sometimes. He's a great businessman, no doubt. But real recognizes real, and I don't see anything real about tearing another man down." The crowd clapped. But the internet didn't. Because when that clip went viral, fans didn't hear wisdom. They heard weakness. It sounded like T.I. was begging for peace in a war that had already been lost. Then, boom, 50 Cent hit back again. He reposted that same podcast clip with a caption that broke the internet. "You can't talk about real when you told on yourself first." That line referenced T.I.'s long-standing snitch rumors, the same whispers that had haunted him since his 2007 gun case. Instantly, the story reignited. Old documents, interviews, and even Vlad TV clips resurfaced. Fans began dissecting every moment of T.I.'s legal past, wondering if 50 was hinting at something deeper. Whether true or not, the perception was enough to tip the scales completely. Cent didn't just question T.I.'s respect, he questioned his authenticity. And in hip-hop, that's fatal. By this point, other rappers started to react too. Some laughed it off. Some stayed quiet. But the silence from T.I.'s peers spoke volumes. Even longtime collaborators didn't rush to defend him publicly. The industry could sense the energy. And in this game, energy is everything. Meanwhile, 50 was feeding the storm in the most 50 Cent way possible, indirectly, sarcastically, and always on top. He dropped another post. This time of him counting stacks of cash with the caption, "Respect ain't free. You gotta earn it daily." Fans went crazy again. The narrative was set in stone. 50 Cent had exposed T.I. as a man out of sync with today's culture, and yet, deep down, there was more truth to it than most wanted to admit. T.I. had started focusing on family shows, comedy skits, and social commentary. All respectable. All growth-oriented, but to hip-hop purists, it looked like he'd left the battlefield. That's why 50's words hit harder. They played into the public's subconscious feeling that T.I. had gone soft. He wasn't feared anymore. He wasn't unpredictable. He wasn't dangerous, the one quality that makes legends like 50 Cent still relevant decades later. Then came the final straw. During an award show weekend, both 50 Cent and T.I. were spotted at the same event in Atlanta. Cameras caught them in separate corners of the room. No interaction, no acknowledgement, but the footage went viral anyway. With the caption, "The energy says it all." Even without words, fans could feel it. The tension, the pride, the unspoken truth that this wasn't just a beef. It was a changing of the guard and had become the businessman, the mogul, the storyteller. T.I. had become a reminder of what used to be. In the end, it wasn't just about disrespect, it was about evolution. 50 Cent showed that power doesn't come from holding on to your past. It comes from owning your future. T.I. tried to hold on to what once made him a king, but the throne had already moved. Respect in hip-hop isn't something you keep forever. It's something you have to keep earning every single day. And 50 Cent? He didn't just expose T.I. He reminded everyone that in this game, staying relevant is the ultimate revenge. But T.I. wasn't done yet, because what happened next shocked even 50 himself. When T.I. decided to hit back again, he went for the heart of the 50s empire, and things got personal. When it seemed like T.I. had been cornered, humiliated, and left behind by the culture, he made one final move. And no one, not even 50 Cent, saw it coming. Because this time it wasn't about words. It was about strategy. T.I. had watched the internet roast him for weeks. Every meme, every blog headline, every YouTube reaction, all painting him as a washed-up legend. He knew he couldn't beat 50 Cent at his own game. The trolling, the mocking, the social media mind tricks. So instead, T.I. decided to change the game entirely. He announced a documentary series, one that would tell his story from the ground up, revealing the truth behind the rumors, the court cases, and the media manipulation. The teaser alone went viral. T.I. stood in front of his old neighborhood in Atlanta, saying they can say what they want, but they can't erase the work, the legacy, or the blood that built this city. I'm still here. Within hours, the internet flipped. The same people who'd been laughing started talking again. Maybe T.I. deserved another look. But behind the scenes, 50 Cent wasn't impressed. He saw the move for what it was, a comeback attempt built on nostalgia. So while T.I. was promoting his documentary, 50 dropped something else, a new season of BMF, complete with a storyline that fans swore was based on T.I.'s real-life fall from grace. One character in particular, a flashy, arrogant rapper who gets caught up in legal trouble and loses everything, looked way too familiar. Social media went crazy. 50 really turned T.I.'s life into a TV episode. One user wrote, "Petty level, God mode." Another commented, and that's when the chaos erupted again. T.I. couldn't ignore it anymore. During an interview when asked about 50's BMF episode, he finally snapped, "Man, if that's what 50 gotta do to stay relevant, let him do it." But at some point, you gotta ask yourself, when does entertainment become an obsession? The clip blew up instantly. Hip-hop media jumped on it. And 50, of course, responded in classic 50 Cent fashion. He posted a photo of himself holding an Emmy nomination plaque with the caption, "Obsessed." Nah, just winning, king. Mic drop. Even people who respected T.I. had to admit, 50's control of the media narrative was unmatched. But then, something unexpected happened. An old video surfaced of T.I. and 50 together backstage at a concert in the mid-2000s. They were laughing, shaking hands, and talking like brothers. It reminded fans of what hip-hop used to be. Raw, competitive, but respectful. Suddenly, the tone shifted again. People started asking, why are we rooting for them to destroy each other when both of them built this culture? 50 and T.I. should be collaborating, not fighting. That old clip humanized T.I. again. It reminded everyone that behind the internet noise, these were two men who came from the same struggle, both survivors of a system that tried to silence them. And maybe 50 Cent saw it too. Because for the first time in months, he stayed quiet. No jokes, no memes, no comments. Silence. Then out of nowhere, 50 posted an old photo of him and T.I. on stage together with a simple caption, "Respect the grind." We both made it out. Fans were stunned. Was this peace? Had 50 Cent actually decided to end the feud? It didn't seem like him, but maybe, just maybe, he had made his point. Because in the end, this battle wasn't about who could talk louder. It was about who could stand taller. T.I. had been humbled, but not broken. 50 Cent had proven his dominance but showed respect. Two kings. Two different paths. Both learning that in hip-hop, survival is the ultimate victory. And as the dust settled, fans realized something deeper. This wasn't a war between enemies. It was a reminder of how time, fame, and ego can twist the story of even the greatest legends. T.I. said in one of his final statements on the issue, "It's easy to tear down, but real strength is in rebuilding. I ain't going nowhere. I'm evolving." Those words hit different. Because for the first time, it wasn't bravado. It was truth. Meanwhile, 50 Cent continued to expand his empire. More shows, more deals, more control. But somewhere deep inside, he knew, without rivals like T.I., the game wouldn't be as fun. The respect may not be what it once was, but the legacy? That will always live on, because no matter how far the industry moves forward, every new generation of rappers is still living in the world these men built, brick by brick, lyric by lyric, hustle by hustle. In hip-hop power shifts, legends fade, new names rise. But one thing remains the same: respect isn't given, it's earned. And as for T.I. and 50 Cent, they've both learned that sometimes the loudest message isn't in the shots you fire, it's in the silence that follows. It's in the silence that follows.